Warner Brothers Games has announced a new version of Mortal Kombat 11, which is technically the third version of Mortal Kombat 11, if you count the original version of the game. Then you had Aftermath that came out earlier this year on all platforms, and now we have Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate. And Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate basically is just the game being ported over to the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. The main thing here is they're adding another Combat Pack, Combat Pack 2, which features 3 new playable fighters. Melina, who was highly requested, Rain, and Rambo, which is a guest character from the Rambo film series, made famous obviously by Sylvester Stallone. Here's my thoughts about this. Mortal Kombat 11 has sold 8 million units globally. Pretty good for a fighting game. In fact, that's great for a fighting game. Fantastic for a fighting game. And the game has been out for a little over a year. I believe March or April next year, the game will be 2 years old. Unless Netherrealm Studios or Ed Boon teases something extra, I assume this is going to be the final version of this game. And they're going to move on to whatever their next project is going to be, which more than likely will be the next Injustice game, if I had to take a wild guess. And so, Combat Pack 2. Here's what I have to say about Combat Pack 2. Combat Pack 2 is $15. So, it has 3 characters, $15, $5 per character. I don't have any issue with that. That's reasonable pricing, unlike the bullshit they tried to pull with Aftermath, where they tried to charge over half the price of the fucking game, the original game, $40 just to have a 5-hour story expansion. That was complete bullshit. And then 2 out of the 3 characters that were in Aftermath, the Aftermath expansion, were trash. Those characters being Fujin and RoboCop. And Shiva wasn't too much better than those 2. But again, when it comes to Combat Pack 2, I like the characters that they announced. I like the pricing. But here's my thing about Mortal Kombat 11 as a whole. Mortal Kombat 11 is one of the worst games that I have played the entire 8th generation of video games. It is in my top 10. Why is it in my top 10? Because the game is just filled with a bunch of issues that have not been rectified well over a year after release. And those issues haven't been rectified because Netherrealm Studios is not interested, they're not invested in trying to fix what's actually wrong with the game. So I want to pull up Metacritic here. Metacritic matters because gamers and video game publishers pay attention to Metacritic. Video game publishers actually use Metacritic as a metric for how well their games are received. Metacritic is not irrelevant whatsoever. It very much matters. And if you look at the user score on Metacritic, generally the game received good reception, great reception. And the same can be said about the professional critics, right? But then if you go to Mortal Kombat 11, the user score on PlayStation 4 is a 3.6. If I pull up the game on PC, Xbox One, the scores are very similar. And the game is sitting around a low 8 on PlayStation 4. Same with the PC version. Xbox, I don't know where these reviews came from because it's the exact same game, so I'm not taking that score seriously. But a lot of people had an issue with this game clearly. And if I scroll down to see what some of the complaints were when this game came out, a lot of it has to do with the amount of grind that's in the game. A lot of it has to do with the microtransactions that are in the game. A lot of it has to do with the loot boxes that are in the game, which goes back to the microtransactions. How grindy the Crypt was, the way the unlock system worked with everything that you can unlock in the game, which goes back to how terrible the grind is in the game. Terrible monetization, which goes back to microtransactions. I mean, if you look at these reviews and you scroll through, a lot of the same complaints are echoed. But see, it's not just an issue of the microtransactions and the unnecessary grind, which is annoying, the always online bullshit, which is probably one of the worst things that Netherrealm Studios has ever done and with any of their games. It's also the way the characters are designed. But before I get into that, I want to pull up the patch notes for this game. These are the patch notes for the 21st of January. The problem with the patch updates, once again, it goes back to that issue of Netherrealm Studios is not invested in trying to actually improve what's wrong with the game. If you look at the patch notes right here, and you read some of these things, it's like none of this actually improves what's actually wrong with the game. Netherrealm's entire game plan is to do small tweaks that actually don't improve anything, and then to add new elements to broken modes in this game that still aren't fixed well over a year after the game's release, such as the Crypt. The problem with the Crypt is how grindy it is, and the currency. There's way too many different types of currencies in this game. The problem with the Towers of Time mode really come from the modifiers and the way that the AI is designed, and I'm going to show an example of that coming up here shortly. Then if you look at the character, the actual adjustments to the characters themselves, none of this improves anything that's wrong with any of the characters in this game. Mortal Kombat 11 has some of the worst character design I've ever seen, gameplay-wise. We're talking gameplay-wise. The game is just filled with these cheap, broken-ass fucking characters. I know what I'm talking about because I've played the game for over 300 hours, trying to force myself to like the game after how much I enjoyed Injustice 2. Trying to find some type of enjoyment out of it. I know how to get 10-hit combos with every single character that's in the game. Quite a few of which I can get well over 10-hit combos, because I've just played the game for that long. So I know how every single character plays in this game, and none of them have really been fixed. So now I'm going to show examples. I'm going to give examples of what's actually wrong with a lot of the characters that are in this game. And the last major thing before I get to that is the skins. The game is just filled with hundreds of different skins, dozens upon dozens for each character that's in the game. There's so many skins for each character in this game that the skins just become irrelevant because none of them actually feel valuable. The cosmetic system was done much better in Injustice 2, and I'm going to give an example of that as well, after I show what's actually wrong with the gameplay in Mortal Kombat 11.
Round 1, fight! I'm pulling rank.
The amount of damage that the fatal blows do can take out an entire third of your health bar, and all the other person has to do is press 2 buttons to initiate them. And given how unbalanced some of the startup animations are, thanks to Netherrealm's bad game design, quite often when you're playing the game it can feel cheap, and it basically gives bad players a free victory. This is part of what makes the game incredibly frustrating to play. Even worse than the fatal blows are the crushing blows. The crushing blows have specific requirements in order to pull off. And basically what it is, it allows the person to get a cheap hit in for an extreme amount of damage. The problem with the crushing blows, however, is the fact that, like the rest of the game, they're extremely unbalanced. And some of the crushing blows in the game are so overpowered, so unbalanced, that they can take out more than half of your opponent's health bar. And if you're on the receiving end of one, then it just makes the game simply unfair to play. And here's some examples of how egregious the crushing blow system can be in this game.
Fight!
Now with this match, I showed an example of what's actually wrong with quite a few of the characters in this game. Almost the entire character roster is filled with these spam-happy, just garbage characters that casual players can just use and spam the same attack over and over again. Which means that the game was not made for a hardcore audience, it was made for a casual audience. And that just makes the game pretty much unplayable if you're trying to take the game seriously on a competitive level. And the game is filled with characters like Aaron Black. Some of them are zoning characters who just fire projectiles throughout the entire match.
Round 1. Fight! Finish her! Fatality. Cassie Cage wins. Round 1. Fight. Finish her! Fatality. Cassie Cage wins.
And other characters just have cheap attacks that's extremely hard to defend against while you're trying to go on the offensive. It just makes the game frustrating unnecessarily. And none of these issues have been fixed since the game came out last year.
Round 1. Fight.
Round 1. Fight! 2. Fight. Fatality.
Hashtag, you're dead.
Cassie Cage wins. Flawless victory. Round 1. Fight.
Round 2. Fight. Finish him.
Round 1. Fight. Finish him. Cassie Cage wins.
So I'm going to take some of the characters that are in this game, and I'm going to show what's the proper way to play as some of these characters versus what idiots actually do with these characters when they go online and they just want to spam attacks over and over again. So here's what a typical Sindel player does when you run into these players online. That's what they do. They'll spam her what's this move called? Whip and flip. They'll spam that move over and over again. It's extremely easy to pull off. It takes no skill whatsoever. You can do it from a distance. And it does a lot of damage. That's the scrub way to play as Sindel. Another thing they'll do is spam her uppercut. Sindel has one of the most overpowered uppercuts in the game because of how much range she has. Netherrealm, this is another example of their bad game design with this game. Sindel is one of the easiest characters to play as in this game. And one of the reasons for that is because if you look at her actual move list, they didn't give her shit. This move list is very short. And there's not much combo potential for it at all. Here's how you're actually supposed to play as Sindel. That's how you're actually supposed to use Sindel. But see, it's much easier to spam in this game than it is to actually, spend some time learning a character, which only takes about 20 to 30 minutes to learn each character that's in this game. For the next example, I've chosen Scorpion. Scorpion is easily probably the most popular Mortal Kombat character, and one of the reasons for that is because of his teleport. This is what casual players do with Scorpion online. And see, Netherrealm, they made some very bad design choices in this game. Specifically with Scorpion, because Scorpion's combo extender is his teleport. And his teleport does not have a limit. So players can use and abuse the move as much as they want. This makes fighting Scorpion extremely difficult, to the point where you basically have to stay in one place in order to fight him. You have to stay in one place and just block and wait for the other person to move. That's how overpowered he is. So here's how you're supposed to use Scorpion. So those are some of the combos that you can pull off with Scorpion. But see, it's much easier to just do this and this throughout an entire match, instead of actually learning how the character actually works. But see, it's hard to blame the players when Nettherrealm Studios refuses to fix anything that's actually wrong with the game. This is what Noob Saibot players tend to do. Because of Netherrealm's bad game design, they gave Noob Saibot an unblockable projectile attack. And so, this is what players do. They either do that, or they spam his teleport. These things are extremely easy to pull off. They take no skill whatsoever. And then you have the typical grapple spammer that just does the same thing every single chance they get. If they get close to you, they'll grab you, because they don't know how to do anything else in the game. And the grapples in this game are extremely overpowered. One of the main reasons for that is because they're very difficult to actually tech out of. Window for breaking out of them is very small. And so it's easy for someone who's inexperienced to just spam them, which leads to an easy victory, which makes the game frustrating than it should be for anyone who actually wants to spend time actually learning how the game works. So that's what a lot of casual players do when they play as Noob Saibot. Here's how you're actually supposed to use Noob Saibot. And so those are some of the combos that you can do with Noob Saibot. That's what you're actually supposed to do when you play as him. But once again, it's easier to just spam the same stupid attacks over and over again. It's easier to just walk up to your opponent and just grab the entire match than actually learn how the fucking game is supposed to work. So out of the many Baraka players that I've played against, a lot of them love to do this. Projectile spam. And they'll just do that the entire match. Every chance they get. Or if they get close, they'll usually do this. Every single chance they get, they'll grab you. A lot of them are grapple spammers. And then a lot of them love to do this, because Baraka has one of the most overpowered jump attacks in the game. The entire match. Every single chance they get. But this is how you're actually supposed to use Baraka. This is how you're actually supposed to use the character. And what I'm doing is very easy to pull off. But see, it's much easier, once again, to just say fuck it. Spam the same attack over and over again. Much easier to just walk up to your opponent and just grab over and over again. So Shiva from the Aftermath expansion of the game. This is what a lot of Shiva players do. Usually they'll do one of two things. They'll spam her Tremor attack. And because of Netherrealm's bad game design, it covers the entire stage. So you can be the farthest distance from your opponent and it'll still register. And they'll just do that the entire match. But one of the main things they do is they'll spam this. That move automatically tracks your opponent. And most players don't know how to actually counter it. What you're supposed to do when Shiva does that is walk backwards, which will cause the player to miss their attack. But see, most players don't actually know that. And so they'll spam that throughout the entire match. So, Shiva is a very casual, friendly character. Why? Because bad game design, that's why. Here's how you're actually supposed to play as Shiva. And so those are some of the combos that you can pull off with Shiva. Some of them are a bit tricky, but they are very much doable. And I prefer to actually do something like that instead of spamming this over and over again throughout the entire match, which is what any Shiva player does. One of my favorite characters in this game, and also one of the most overpowered broken ass pieces of shit I've seen in any fighting game. What players do with this character is absolutely ridiculous. It'll make you want to quit this game in a heartbeat, playing online. This is what Kung Lao players do. Every single chance they get, they'll jump to try and avoid attacks and not really try and block. And then they'll spam his drop kick, which is just, I don't understand how Netherrealm hasn't fixed that yet. It's because they don't care about fixing the game, as I mentioned earlier in this video. And if they don't spam that, then they spam this. His teleport has the same input as Noob Saibot's teleport. And this is what they'll do. It's pathetic how people play as this character. This is what you're actually supposed to do when you play as Kung Lao. So those are some of the combos that you can do with Kung Lao. See, it's much easier to just, you know, jump around all over the fucking place. Do this. It's much easier to spam teleport attacks, you know, because, you know, fuck learning how the character actually is supposed to play, right? Ain't nobody got time for that. So let's just do this the entire match. And then for all you casual players out there, you wonder why you lose to more skilled players who actually take the time to learn how the game is actually supposed to work and how these characters are supposed to be played. Fujin's another one of those characters who's a huge disappointment in this game. He should have been a lot better than what he is, because what a lot of players do with Fujin is they'll spam his move Skywalker, where he does a run in the air, and then you can just strike from the air. And then they'll try and spam this. They'll try and spam this crap. And that's really what his moveset allows him to do on a casual level. But here's how you're really supposed to use Fujin. And see, the problem with Fujin, I wouldn't even blame the fans for using him incorrectly, because he's extremely difficult to use, on purpose. He's designed that way on purpose. That's why there's not too many people that play as Fujin online. And the people that do play as him spam the same attacks over and over again, because it's easy. Learning how to do that takes time. And no one wants to put time into the game to learn how to do shit properly. And so, what all this boils down to basically is, you have a bunch of casual players playing the game online, ruining the experience for anyone who really wants to take the game seriously on a competitive level. And Netherrealm Studios refuses to fix anything that's wrong with any of the characters, so there's no point in playing Mortal Kombat 11 competitively, because the same issues persist month after month after month, and Netherrealm Studios doesn't really address any of the major issues that's wrong with any of the characters. But see, the gameplay isn't the only thing that's wrong with Mortal Kombat 11. So I'm at the main menu, and this is the PC version of Mortal Kombat 11, by the way. And so, every time you log in, you have these daily challenges, and then you have the store. They have a microtransaction store on the main menu. And what it is, they want you to purchase these time crystals, which are essentially the game's in-game credit microtransaction system. So you can use those time crystals to purchase whatever random bullshit shows up in the premium shop menu. And this is where a lot of the negative reviews came from.
Customize characters.
Then if you go to customize, and you pick any character in the game, I'm going to pick Baraka here for example. Baraka has almost 80 different skins. Gear wise, he has 37 banners, 38 headgear, 38 arm blades. But see, the cosmetic system is fucked up because, unlike Injustice 2, the gear system in this game doesn't actually make the character stronger. It is purely there for cosmetic reasons and cosmetic reasons alone. It's just cosmetics just for the sake of cosmetics. Customization for the sake of customization. And every character has almost the same number of skins. And so it's hundreds of different skins if you add everything up that are unlockable in this game. And as I was saying earlier in the video, there's so many different skins in the game that all of them just turn out to be irrelevant because none of them have any kind of intrinsic value. The only thing they did do right with the customization system in this game is give players access to every single character's individual specific abilities from the beginning, unlike Injustice 2 where you had to unlock them by playing the multiverse mode. All of them are available, but then you have certain characters, like Scarlet for example, where you have access to all of her abilities, but then certain moves you can't equip if other moves are equipped at the same time. And this really ruins characters like Scarlet because it limits her combo potential. So for example, her ability Cell Siphon. Even if I have a free slot that's available, if I have Retribution or Boiling Point equipped, I can't use Cell Siphon. It'll give me a message that says it conflicts with that ability. And so what that does is it drastically limits what characters like Scarlet can do. And that's a big problem. And she's not the only character in the game that has that issue. So with the customization system, already there's too many unlockables if you add up all the characters together. And then you have all the extra shit.
Mute ending.
The extra endings,
Recipes.
the recipes, the music,
Story.
the story, the environments, the characters for the concept art. There's too many unlockables in the game. The Crypt is one of the worst modes in the entire game. So basically all the Crypt is a bunch of loot boxes scattered around basically a lifeless environment in which you walk up to these chests, which are the loot boxes. You hold a button down and it'll give you random shit that you don't care about. Most of the items that you do unlock in these chests are useless, and you can't actually use them for anything. If you do unlock like a gear piece, like I just did with one of Cassie Cage's drones, again, it really doesn't matter because of how useless the gear system is in this game. The gear pieces are so small on the characters in game that you're not going to pay attention to them while you're actually playing the game. Like I said, it's just customization just for the sake of customization, because they didn't really care about the customization system in this game. What they cared about was the microtransactions, the loot boxes, how much money they can make off of the time crystals. That's what Netherrealm Studios and WB Games, that's what their goal was with this game. That's why the game has so many negative reviews, user reviews on Metacritic. Then you have the Towers of Time mode, which is very similar. It's basically the same as the multiverse mode in Injustice 2, with some minor differences. And basically you have a series of different towers or whatever challenges that you can tackle. The problem with this mode, however, just like the game itself, is that you always have to be connected to the internet in order to access it. Without the internet, if you're trying to play the game offline, you have no access to the Towers of Time mode, which is basically the main mode in Mortal Kombat 11. And all you do is complete these boring towers so that you can unlock more character skins and gear, which I already went over what's wrong with the customization system in this game. But what really ruins the Towers of Time mode in this game are the modifiers and the difficulty of the AI. The co-op towers in particular are absolutely frustrating and ridiculous. The AI basically in the co-op towers are damage sponges that are so overpowered. Netherrealm intended the mode to be played by multiple people, but unfortunately most of the players that play this game suck at it, and so the mode just tends to be a frustrating mess. Someone like me can just take two characters and play a tower by myself without really any issues, but most players who play this game can't do that. That's how overpowered the AI is. And the Towers of Time mode is one of the main things, one of the main complaints that people had with Mortal Kombat 11 when it came out. And nothing about it has been rectified or fixed since the game's release last year in 2019. The last thing is Combat League. Now this is the PC version of the game, so it doesn't show my actual current progress, which is on the PlayStation 4. But right now they're in the middle of Season 14. Each season of Combat League is 1 month long, and people play Combat League simply to unlock these character skins. And you have 9 different ranks. And basically the way it works is that If you win a match, you gain points. Past a certain rank, which is basically once you get the master rank, from that point forward, if you lose a match, you lose points. And what it used to be was, if you win a match, you get like 25 points, sometimes 50 points. It's really up to the game. And if you lose a match, it used to be you lose 100 points to a player who's a lower rank than you. Since then, they've fixed it somewhat with the point system, to where if you lose someone who's a lower rank than you, the most points you can lose is 50. And so that makes it so you can't just lose hours of progress, basically, within the span of a few minutes. Still, the point system is absolutely fucked up in Combat League. The ranking system is bullshit too, because the ranks reset every month. So each new season, you start back over at an apprentice, even if you made it all the way to Elder God. And another problem is, once you reach Grand Master rank, you need 1500 points in order to reach the next rank, leading all the way up to Elder God. Problem is, most players will never even make it to Demigod, because of how the point system works. Only the best of the best will reach Demigod rank. The players who are really dedicated will make it to God rank. I've made it to God rank twice. The players who make it to Elder God rank, those are the true pros of Mortal Kombat 11. Except for the few players that just cheated during Season 1, and basically quit out of a match before they were handed a loss. Since then, Netherrealm has fixed that to where that's no longer a thing, but they haven't made it any easier for any casual people to make it to Elder God rank, or even the people that are really dedicated to playing the game. I've never made it to Elder God rank. The highest I've ever gotten is God rank number 160 something on the leaderboards, and that's worldwide. That's as high as I've been able to get. But the most I've seen as far as Elder God rank, as far as the leaderboard goes, is about maybe 20 to 30 people have made it to that rank in the entire world during any given season. Right now, only 11 people have made it to Elder God rank. This is on PC. On console, this number is probably not that much higher. It's probably around 30 something people. They made a mode in the game that only benefits the top 1% of the top 1% of players in Mortal Kombat 11. And then they locked character skins and gear items to these ranks, which are extremely difficult and pretty much impossible for any casual player to obtain past a certain rank. And then to make it even worse, they added a system known as point decay that kicks in after a certain rank, which basically is you as the player lose points if you don't play the game for a certain amount of time. So basically, like after 3 days, you start to lose points and you'll D-rank. Combat League single-handedly is the most frustrating mode I've ever played in a fighting game. It is the most frustrating mode I've played in any game I've played over the last 7 years, and it's one of the main reasons why I can't stand this piece of shit. And this is coming from someone who's made God rank twice, who's made demigod rank for every season that I gave a shit to try. These are some of the many things that is wrong with Mortal Kombat 11, and they have not been fixed nor rectified by Netherrealm Studios. Yet they want players to keep giving them money for new characters in the game. New characters of which could end up being completely screwed up, because realistically, the only good DLC character in the entire game is Shang Tsung. All of the other DLC characters range anywhere from mediocre to just terrible. For example, Joker. Joker is extremely powerful at close range. He's overpowered at close range because of the cane that they gave him. He has too much range with virtually every single attack that they gave him, which makes him extremely casual friendly. Then you have Spawn, and the problem with Spawn is the fact that he's too slow, and his moves are easily readable. He's actually one of the worst characters in the game, and he was the character that I personally was looking forward to the most. But no, he sucks. Then you have Shiva. Shiva's fun to play as, but the startup frames on most of her attacks are too slow. And that's why players spam that jump attack that jump teleport attack that she does. You have a character like RoboCop, who is a spam happy friendly zoning character, who can just spam projectiles across the damn screen. And the character has very little combo potential. Clearly this is how Netherrealm Studios intended for RoboCop to play. He's meant to be a zoning character for casual friendly players. And ironically, I don't see too many people playing RoboCop online in this game, whenever I do play it. You have a character like Terminator, who is one of the most overpowered characters in the entire game. His damage output is completely ridiculous and unfair. But similar to Spawn and Shiva, he's too slow with most of his attacks, and he doesn't have a lot of combo potential. A lot of players have considered him to be the worst character in the entire game. Then you have a character like Fujin, whom I demonstrated earlier. And Fujin, the problem with Fujin is that he's extremely difficult to use, and he doesn't have a whole lot of combo potential either. So a lot of players have dropped any hope of using Fujin competitively online. The players that do play as him just spam the same attacks over and over again. These are the characters that Netherrealm Studios has put into the game as paid DLC, and just about all of them are terrible. Sindel. Sindel's probably the biggest disappointment in this game. She has a great design. They hired an amazing voice actress to voice the character. All of her gear pieces and everything look great, but gameplay wise, she is absolutely awful, because they didn't give her really anything to work with. And that's why players spam the same attacks over and over again with her, which I demonstrated earlier in this video. The only other good DLC character other than Shang Tsung is Nightwolf, but hardly anyone plays as Nightwolf anymore online. He's actually one of the least popular characters in the game at this point. Most of the characters that you encounter online now in Mortal Kombat 11 is Scorpion, the Joker, Johnny Cage, Sub-Zero, Jade, Kung Lao, and Liu Kang. You'll encounter those characters over and over and over again because of how overpowered and broken they are. These characters that I just named make Mortal Kombat 11 extremely frustrating to play competitively. If you're just a player who plays offline, you'll probably enjoy the game a lot more than pretty much anyone else. But if you're trying to play the game competitively online against other people, odds are you're going to get frustrated really fast, and you're going to lose patience with this game over time. The only reason I've played Mortal Kombat 11 as long as I have is because for the longest time I've tried to force myself to like the game, and I've tried to deal with the issues that it has, hoping that Netherrealm Studios was actually going to fix what's wrong with the game via the patch updates, but as I also mentioned earlier, they've done nothing of the sort. The reason Injustice 2 was far better received compared to Mortal Kombat 11 is because, first of all, it has a better customization system. The gear pieces on the characters are larger because you can customize the individual clothing pieces that the characters wear in the game, which already makes Mortal Kombat 11's customization system a huge regression compared to what came before in Injustice 2. And the gear pieces actually made the characters stronger. They had different attributes for strength, defense, ability, and health points. Not only that, but you could also augment certain abilities with each character in the game. Some of which includes how much experience they get, how much damage they can dish out, depending on where the player's health is at in any individual match, so on and so forth. And this game had microtransactions, but they were in no way as intrusive as what you have in Mortal Kombat 11. In fact, with the source crystals in the game, players never needed to actually buy any of the source crystals in the game to get some of the premier skins that the game had to offer. Whereas in Mortal Kombat 11, in order to get the time crystals in-game, you have to suffer through Combat League in order to get a large sum of time crystals. And Combat League is nowhere near worth it to suffer through a bunch of bad gameplay, annoying, trollish players, and an endless grind that's just not fun by comparison. Also, Injustice 2's multiverse mode is far better than what you have in Towers of Time mode in Mortal Kombat 11 because it's nowhere near as grindy as what you have in Mortal Kombat 11. The grind is still there, but because the gameplay is designed better than what you have in Mortal Kombat 11, the game's fun factor actually works in its favor. Not to mention the fact that you can play multiverse mode offline. You don't need to be connected to the internet in order to play multiverse mode in Injustice 2. So the game doesn't have that disgusting live service feel to it. And gameplay wise, Injustice 2 is far more smooth than what you have in Mortal Kombat 11. The game is more responsive, there's more combo potential with virtually every single character in the game, and it's just more fun to pull off combos. Not to mention, your wake-up options are better, you have more augment slots, which increases combo potential for all the characters that are in the game compared to Mortal Kombat 11, where you only have 2 slots. There's stage transitions, which are completely missing in Mortal Kombat 11. There's more environmental interactions. And by comparison, the game just feels a lot more fair when you compare the differences between it and Mortal Kombat 11. Mortal Kombat 11 may have sold more than Injustice 2, but it's objectively the worst game out of the two. What this all boils down to is this. Netherrealm Studios can add however so many characters they want to this game. They can add characters like Melina, like Rain, Rambo. They can add more 80s themed movie characters to Mortal Kombat 11. But at the end of the day, the fact remains that nothing has been done to fix what's actually wrong with this game. And yes, everything that I stated that's wrong with this game is accurate, valid, and it very much matters that the development studio behind Mortal Kombat 11 has done nothing to actually fix what's wrong with the game. Because Netherrealm Studios and the publisher over them, WB Games, have shown zero interest to fix what's actually wrong with Mortal Kombat 11. Therefore, whenever the next Mortal Kombat game is announced, Mortal Kombat 12, whatever it's going to be called, I have no interest whatsoever. This is the first Mortal Kombat game that I've supported without question, that I've gone out of my way to acquire all the DLC that's been released so far. Sure, Combat Pack 2 looks good. I like the characters in Combat Pack 2. I may support Combat Pack 2. But beyond the game itself, because of everything that's been handled improperly, that's been handled poorly, I will not be a future supporter of the series itself, due to the sloppiness of Netherrealm's game design and their failure to address issues that have plagued this game since launch. Therefore, I don't know what's next or who's next for this series, but I do know that it won't be me.